Hello everyone. So in computer-aided design, you have several methods with which you could create and build up your models. And one of the ways is by using primitives. So primitives are like foundational building blocks. So in CST we have these primitives. Now I don't know if they are called primitives in CST, but then you have the box or the brick as it's called here. You have the sphere, you have the cone, and then you also have the torus, and then you have the cylinder. So these are the primitives that we have in CST Studio. And another way to create your models would be using curves and extrusions and Boolean and everything. I mean, with primitives, you also use Boolean maybe to chip up some part or to add models together. Now, one question that would arise is a mesh generated using these two different or modeling with different approaches? So going about your model with different approaches, either using curves or using primitives, does it yield different mesh? My answer before making this video was yes. I could imagine that um, the way the primitives are handled will be different from the way curve and built model is handled. So I decided to check. Now I checked with just a very simple case, a cylinder. So maybe for some more complicated cases, you have different result, or I would expect that the result is more. So I built a cylinder using two methods. So the first method is just using a plain old and primitive. So I clicked on this and then created the solid, the cylinder, and that's the cylinder you have here. The dimensions are 50 millimeter by 100 millimeter, so 50 millimeter radius and 1,000 millimeter length. And then I created one using a curve. So using the curve, so I drew a circle first and then extruded it. So I drew a circle using curves, circle, and then use the extrusion to get this solid cylinder. So graphically they look exactly the same. They look exactly the same from all sides. I mean, it's the same dimension, so it should look the same. However, let's see if the mesh generated is different. Now, I already went ahead and generated the mesh. Now, one thing we notice for the tetrahedral mesh and my settings, so the frequency, I just set a random frequency, max frequency of 1,000, and all other settings remain the same. So the only thing that is different with these two models, this and this, is the way they were modeled. So the same cylinder, the same dimension, but a different process. So you look at the tetrahedrons, you have 9,203. Then you look at the number of tetrahedrons, you have 9,360. So about maybe 140 or 137 tetrahedrons more. And then looking at the mesh, if we look at the mesh view to see if there's any significant difference, I don't know if you'll be able to tell using the eye. Yeah, you might not really be able to tell visually, because if you should look at the patterns, it looks exactly the same for both models. But then if I should kind of click my spacebar to get everything all nicely centered, and then I also click my spacebar for this, so if I should click, you see, now you can see the difference. You can see some difference in the mesh generated, although you still can't tell how this, it doesn't look that drastic comparing with eye. So you see the difference around this region. So pay attention to this region, then you see the mesh change, and also around this region. So the answer is yes, it does change the nature of the mesh generated for a tetrahedral mesh. However, for the hexahedral mesh, I checked also, and then update this, and for this also update this mesh view. So for your hexahedral mesh, at least for this very simple geometry, you do not have a difference. So you have 66,600 mesh cells, and then you also have 66,600 mesh cells for this. So for this very simple geometry, you do not have a difference. But I'm trying to imagine a scenario, some complex scenario, where you would have a difference in the number of tetrahedrons, hexahedrons in this case, where you have a different number depending on um, the method with which you modeled your geometry. So yeah, that was it for this video. For this simple case, summary, for this simple case, your tetrahedrons, you have a difference, but okay, I wouldn't say but, it's about 100 and something more for the using curves. So this is also not universal again. It's not universal, it's just for this particular case, but then just to show that there's a difference in the nature of the mesh generated. I think for some other softwares that I've used in the past, it was more drastic. It's more drastic. The difference, you could actually visually see the difference if you should use curves to build the model when compared to using primitive to build the model. So there's drastic difference in the mesh generated, which is why I decided to also check for CST Studio. So that's it for this video.